Okay, so based on the whole projections and with the understanding that as of 2 to 3 days ago, we should have taken delivery on a substantial order of emergency preparedness supplies that was prepared within 20 days previously. I have the agenda. I have the list. I even made a spreadsheet out of it. I have the catalog and everything like that, which means that what would have happened among that is that we also would have gotten a backup generator, including more than one potential power source. I'd budgeted and decided on solar, because of the understanding of the locations that would be of concern. Um, but what happened was the day that the delivery should have been taken, there was what could have been a concurrent find that would have represented the delivery, and I have that here. But somebody stole my backup power supply, which was actually a solar power supply, right? Which means not only did they sabotage the insurance, but the backup generator then would have reverted to what? Well, a diesel powered backup generator, which is not what was in the budget and was not what was supposed to actually be acquired. However, if that had been the case with what happened today, we would have another round of contributions, including ones that would have provided for 90 days and ones that would have included provision for 30 days. That's 24 days after we had already allotted for 180 days and for 90 days, as well as for other things that had happened. So, what this means is that whatever else is going on concurrently, there's actually enough to supplement what could have been a very substantial nutritional need, insofar as we had access to what? Well, the solar generators were primarily for what? The freezers. Because the understanding is if you get these fresh fruits in supply, you may not have the environmental conditions to keep them for long, but you can freeze them. You can create actual means by which I used to do is I put them in ice cube trays, and I would freeze them in a context of a cube per a certain amount. Right? There's a certain amount that each ice cube ends up providing in ounces. You can actually apportion for yourself your dietary needs of vitamins and nutritional content based upon those ounces that you have of those cubes. And so this is the second time this has happened. It happens that this fruit and food is fresh. I haven't found one little bit of mold on it. I don't know what they're doing, but it could have been the kind of thing where it could have been acknowledged as a contribution. And insofar as it would have been acknowledged as a contribution, it would have provided the nutritional needs necessary up to a certain amount for either 90 days or if there were three times the amount of people for 30 days. Insofar as this came within 30 days of the last one, that would have been incredibly substantial. So if there was some regularity, or if even you needed to have a cushion in the event that there's an emergency and there's some dirt, that's already been provided for. Here's the problem: the stealing of the insurance. Somebody stole the insurance, which needed to have a specific process so that they could use it for what? Well, unfortunately, what they've been using it for is extortion. So, in the course of extortion, what you have instead is what? A bunch of rotting food. This food isn't actually going to be prepared and cubed and put into a freezer so it can last for the next 30 to 90 days of nutritional need. There's enough for the next 30 to 90 days of nutritional need, depending upon how many people. But there is no refrigerator and there's no freezer capacity. And so it's going to rot. And it shouldn't. It's actually a substantial amount. And see, here's the thing: I'm keeping track of this. I don't know who else thinks that dumps of fresh food, including fresh food, that, by the way, perfectly good order, right? I mean, even without refrigeration, it may last a couple of days, some of it. But this stuff could potentially last for 30 to 90 days. I did that for a whole year, and it actually worked very well, right? But if you steal the generator or you steal the electrical source so that you can't power the freezer, it's all going to go to rot. But what it also means is that there is a means by which you can take delivery on fresh fruits as infrequently as once or twice a month, and you can still find a way to fulfill your nutritional needs if you need to, including in an emergency response, as long as you have very basic needs met. The problem is that in this process of whoever thinks they're entitled to try to prove whatever they're proving in this context, they've taken away even that most basic need. That most basic need. See, what people like to do is when they're talking about emergency preparedness and prevention, they like to talk about extreme situations. Well, what about the people on ventilators at the hospital? We're not talking about people on ventilators at hospitals here. We're talking about people that might otherwise be able to sustain themselves for a month or several months, even without primary electricity or the internet. But if you take away their refrigeration, it's going to be a lot harder. Now, if you're in an Arctic climate, it's going to be a different consideration when it comes to refrigeration, isn't it? Yes, it is. But we're not in an Arctic climate. And so this is intentionally, and it's also very disappointing. Because whatever this did, we could have worked out another means that insofar as they had excess or surplus, it could have been accounted for in a much different manner. And so whatever it is that is motivating people to do massive dumps of totally fresh food is something that could have otherwise been put to good use. It would not have been that difficult. The question is, who needs to torment somebody in such a sadistic manner?